Let me begin by thanking the organizers of the conference since it's the end. So thank you for your hospitality, and thank you for organizing a lovely conference. I've enjoyed it enormously. But I think because I put forward a few words of disagreement here, I've been handed the most difficult subject of all, restructuring South Asia. I asked you to please go back in history and think about it, and then have pity on me. All the way from the Kushans to the Muslims to the British, everybody came and tried to restructure South Asia. And they all became South Asians. South Asia didn't change. So how the hell do I sort of change South Asia? So I must confess, I admit defeat immediately. I'm not going to tell you anything on how to restructure South Asia. South Asia will not be restructured. As I put forth in one of the question answer sessions, we fear growth and change, and South Asia will not change. So with that proposition, I want to now put forth a very important proposition and give you 3 ideas that I want to push in my 10 minutes. The proposition is something that we've all been celebrating for the last 10 years, less so now. Now that the elephant and dragon are kind of slumbering a little, we are less confident. But I remember a year or 2 ago, South Asia was bubbling. This was our century. The power was shifting from the west to the east after 1,000 years. And yes, we were going to inherit the world. Yes, the Asian century is here. What were we going to do about it? The West was declining. The demographics were in our favor. And yeah, we were awakening. We wanted to go somewhere. We wanted to go to a party. The party was right here. What were we going to do about it? Nothing. This was our century. It's going to just come to us. We don't have to do anything. It's all going to come to us. Need I remind you, ladies and gentlemen, we've missed many parties in South Asia. Recall there was a Renaissance, but it was somewhere else. Recall there was a Reformation, it was somewhere else. Recall there was an industrious revolution, and an industrial revolution, it was somewhere else. There was an Enlightenment, East Asian growth, emerging markets, missed us. Yeah, we are sitting in Sri Lanka. They did all the MDGs, and before MDGs came, but they still missed the party. So my proposition is, yes, we could have a party, but we have to work for it. We won't get a party if we preserve this mindset of no change, preserve the status quo. We have to think differently. We can't keep following the MDGs, as Mr. Bhattacharya said, that are made somewhere else. When are we going to make our own MDGs? What is required to make our own MDGs? That's my 3 propositions. Number 1, I might note something very interesting. If you look at your brochures, or if you go outside and look at that table of donors for this conference, I find it very intriguing. I took a photograph, but I can't show it to you. If you note, there is no South Asian ownership in the funding of this conference. All of it is funded by donors from outside. No South Asian government has contributed towards this conference. Even the South Asian private sector has not contributed to this conference. Yes, we can lament the fact that the MDGs are made in the North, but the North has spent, to my quick calculation, north of $50 million preparing the MDGs. Well, we have spent nothing on thinking. So that's one of my first proposition. If we want to have the party, we must change the way we think. We must have a boldness of vision. We must think of leapfrogging. We must get out of agriculture and worship the peasant mentality. We have to get into the modern world. I see a number of things. People mention Twitter. I've been saying a number of things. But one of the things that I mentioned, for example, in this conference, we did not discuss at all the fact that there has taken place a global crisis. The The fact that global crisis has exposed my subject deeply. It's changed the way we look at things, at least those of us who think. It's fundamentally shaken the image of the West and the institutional foundations of the West. But even more important, something that's been only mentioned in passing, but very important. We had Google just now. Technology is not just the internet, and technology is not just the fact that we've got cell phones and iPads. Technology is disrupting the way we do business. The Google lady just mentioned the MOOCs and the education. She showed you a slide of the Khan Academy. Technology is changing the way we do things. And the Sri Lankan chair of the Chambers of Commerce just mentioned and a couple of other things about human talent. We had a session on education. We didn't have a session on talent. How do we manage our talent? These days, the US immigration laws are being changed primarily for talent management. And South Asia has no respect for talent whatsoever. And that's something that we have to bear in mind. Secondly, we also see what is technology doing. Technology is not only disrupting talent, the way we manage talent, gravitating talent towards the West, whether it's here or there. Technology is also doing something else. It's, as Moses' name says, there's an end of power. The way power and influence work, Brad DeLong had a book on end of influence, the way power and influence now work are also important. So these are all background elements that have changed things. We have to change our vision too. Like Google, out of a garage they came out and built a huge company. Why can't we in South Asia? When I mention change, people tell me gradual, slow. We have to go slowly. 65 years, Google is only 10 years old. Why can't we think of leapfrogging and moving ahead in a faster pace than 65 years? That, ladies and gentlemen, can only happen if we think differently. If we think beyond food security, if we think beyond disaster risk management. Forgive me, these are terms handed down to us. These are not terms we made. These are like the MDGs that are going to be handed down to us. These are not terms that we make. So that's important. So my first recommendation is, we've got to change the way we think. Unfortunately, we have to do it without funding. Because our governments don't spend on research. And I did not hear anybody say in this conference, at least put out a voice saying, please fund research. I was the Deputy Chairman of Planning Commission in Pakistan. I tried very hard to put some money on the table for research. I was voted down all the time. You can't put any money for research. All the research in Pakistan is commissioned by donors. Oops, okay. Okay, my second point. We have to break from the past. We have to get out, think anew. Now in that, there are a number of new things. Akmal Shah keeps talking about the new institutional economics. I mean, I would throw in something that we need to think about too. Here again, I haven't heard that at all. This new stuff on behavioral economics. The new approach to policy. Policy is no longer the government going out and taking charge of the market. There's a very famous phrase, not even a phrase, a word that has been used by Thaler and Sunstein in a famous book called nudge. And now there's a nudge unit everywhere in the world. Policy is nudge. Policy is not coming and hammering people with a sledgehammer. We've got to change with that. We have to think about what interventions are, how they should be made, and they have to be based in serious understanding of all kinds of subjects, including institutional, as well as behavioral economics. But I'd go even further. There's a whole new literature emerging on complexity. No longer do we think sector by sector. Development is an emergent phenomenon based on the interaction of human beings individually and eventually forming a collective through things like Google, etc., Facebook, etc. They form a collective. And it's a collective interactions which we can't predict, which we can't change at any policy level without understanding the nudge involved. But yet, we are all thinking and designing programs that are going to manage risk, that are going to manage insecurity, that are going to manage things that we've seen in the global economic crisis. We were sitting very comfortable that we knew how to manage risks. And again, Black Swan comes to mind. Sorry, I'll finish in 2 minutes. Black Swan comes to mind. Black Swan says, we can't manage risks. Let's get with it. If the financial markets could not manage risk, we, in this part of the world with so many vulnerabilities, we have to grow with it. Very simple. My third and final point, very quickly. We all keep blaming the government. We all keep blaming the political will. I'm sorry, I'm afraid we need a deeper discussion, a longer discussion on this. There is a subject called the policy process. Let's begin to think about it. Policy cannot, people tell me all the time, so you were the deputy chairman, why didn't you fix Pakistan? Hell, I was not Akbar Badshah. Even Akbar Badshah can't do anything. There is a policy process. Ladies and gentlemen, we must understand the policy process. In the policy process, intellectuals play a role. Your role is to develop ideas, but they have to be forward-looking ideas. There can't be ideas that have been handed down by Jeffrey Sachs 10 years ago. They have to be visionary, they have to be bold, they have to capture the people's imagination. When that happens, you are the agent of change. Unless that happens, we are not the agent of change. The politicians will then not look to us. They have to look elsewhere. And those ideas are coming from that establishment in the north that Mr. Bhattacharya was decrying, and I share that decrying with him. So my very simple and brief point is, ladies and gentlemen, the party could be here, but I think we're going to miss it because we're not thinking anew. Thank you.